Okay, hi everybody. Um, I am back and back for Mahamudra for the people. I wanted to get a sense to see who's here. So if you want to just say hello in the chat box, that would be great. Um, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but on Cragcast you can't see the people you're working with. And so it's helpful to just see who in the world is here and interested. Um, yeah, it's wonderful to be back. Um, and Hi. And Yeah, so I'm back from retreat. It was a very good, powerful experience, and I'm really happy to be back here with everybody here to um, keep going, especially with Ninth Karmapa's pointing out the Dharmakaya. Um, and if I remember correctly, based on what we've done in the past, I'd like to just start off first with little, a reflection or contemplation on gratitude and impermanence and um, the act of taking refuge. So allow yourself to just kind of get as comfortable as you can in your body and bring to mind the preciousness of this birth, the preciousness of this existence, the preciousness of what it means to be able to live a life that's in right relationship with the world and everyone in the world. And in how rare it is that we have this opportunity to be together with folks from Oakland, from Georgia, from Massachusetts, from North Carolina, from Canada, all here, from Virginia, DC, taking time to recall everybody who has helped get us here. So friends, families, even, those who've made our life difficult. Right? In some ways, all of these people have been our teachers. Taking time to recognize the fragility of this moment, both the literal aspect of this moment, but then also the fragility of this life, how easy it is to experience sickness, then how easy it is to become wrapped up in fear and anxiety, be overcome by anger, all sorts of difficult emotions. And then taking a little bit of time to recognize what a blessing it is to connect to practice. And practice is one of these things that helps us become free, it helps us become more authentically ourselves, it helps us to be able to be more attuned to one another. And then so taking some time to recognize the difference between reliable and unreliable sources of refuge. Right? And it's basically an unreliable source of refuge is a source of refuge that isn't going to really get us free. So these things that we might turn to that might feel like, they lead towards some kind of liberation, but don't. And so what does it mean to cultivate a relationship to the source of Dharma that's reliable? That's pretty difficult. It takes us a long time sometimes. Sometimes it falls right into our lap. It can feel, sometimes karma or fate kind of allows things to come together really naturally. Other times we really need to work. And then in our own way, taking refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. Again, taking refuge in the Buddha, however we envision the Buddha, taking refuge in the Dharma, whatever that might be, taking refuge in the Sangha. In this particular case, the Bhumisparsha Sangha, that's spread out over a great distance, but a really strong community of people bound together by a shared ethos around getting free. And then taking refuge in the Lama and the Yinam and the protector, so the teacher, meditational deity, however that arises for you, and the protector, same thing, however that arises for you. These are known as the three roots. And so bringing all of these to mind, allowing us to experience gratitude and maybe even marvel a little bit at the mystery behind how all of this has come to be, how we have come to be together, and how you all have been continuing to develop spiritually. It's something amazing and something to celebrate. So I invite everybody here to celebrate themselves and celebrate one another and celebrate the Sangha and celebrate this work. So next I'd like to move into just a brief period of sitting, about 11 or 12 minutes, and then just full disclosure to the group, unfortunately this first time coming back to leading this Mahamudra for the people, I'm going to have to leave at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so within an hour. My schedule, the one thing that's constant is its variability, so I apologize for that, but I just want to kind of name that so it doesn't feel like I'm running away. So I'm going to ring this gong and we'll begin about 11 minutes of practice. So, just allow yourself to kind of come back to this experience, and just check in, with yourself, and let yourself very kind of gently and gingerly see how that felt. Yeah, so it's good to be here with everyone. I'm sorry that Miss Brenda had to leave. I didn't get to say hello. But yeah, hello everybody who has joined. So, I want to kind of be consistent and, finish out, I guess we're almost done with the text pointing out the Dharmakaya by Ninth Karmapa. And for those who may be not so familiar with that, I've been teaching it over, I don't really know how long it's been, maybe since February or something, or January. And it's a really concise and pithy Mahamudra text. Ninth Karmapa wrote, he's known for three very powerful Mahamudra texts. This is the shortest one, called Pointing Out the Dharmakaya, and then then the next one is called Illuminating the Darkness of Ignorance, and then the third is called The Ocean of Definitive Meaning, which is quite big, and which Bokor Rinpoche, who was one of my teachers, wrote a very kind of condensed version of that one, which is also quite beautiful. So anyway, this one I came across years ago and received transmission and instruction on, and I find it particularly meaningful. And it sounds like a good number of people have been interacting with the text while I was in retreat, which is great. That's what it's here for. And it's nice to see Melissa, it's nice to see Casey and Payne, and it's nice to connect with South Sea Sangha and Ben and Annika and Sarah and Anne. And of course Booms Parsha. So I'm going to continue off where I left off, which was in the section called Pointing Out. And the section begins by instructions on pointing out the still mind, and then pointing out the moving mind. And then the one that we're up to right now is pointing out the mind while there are appearances. We're going to do this. And so Ninth Karmapa, whose name is Wangchuk Dorje, tells us that by looking at the mind while there are appearances, so I don't know where you are right now, but I'm in a room, and it's full of appearances, right? There's Dharma stuff, there's non-Dharma stuff, it's a little bit of a hot room, right? So there's temperature. I ate somewhat recently and was up at 3 a.m, so I'm a little sleepy. That constitutes part of appearance. My feet are still a little damp because it's been raining. I was outside a little bit ago. If that's part of appearance. There's ambient noise. That's part of appearance. So, Karmapa says, by looking at the mind while there are appearances, the object is brilliant and does not cease. And the mind that looks at it arises freshly in each moment without grasping at it. There's no fixation of thinking. The object is out there. It's like a child looking at a shrine room. Appearance without being an object is vivid. Appearance and mind do not differ. The natural radiance of mind appears without cessation. When appearance, not existing as separate from mind or as an external object, dawns as luminous and empty, that is the dawning of Vipassana from appearance. You should know that to be the union of appearance and emptiness, the Dharmakaya. And so there are a couple really great little points in here, one of which is this reference to, like a child looking in a shrine room. And so, for any of us who have children or have encountered children or remember being, a child, that vividness, right? That ability to see something and you're just, it's almost like you're seeing it for the first time. It's kind of a little electrifying, it's compelling, it's fresh. We don't have a jaded, kind of relationship to it yet. We haven't, really kind of defined our intellect to the extent that we can explain away why that thing is here. Oh, that's here because of blah, 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 We're not, at that point, we're not able to do that. And so this practice is a little, Mahamudra and Ati Yoga both have these components in them that ask us to return back to a very childlike, sometimes described also as simple, simplistic, not in a negative way, return to just resting into direct experience. Right? And to look without grasping. Right? So like I mentioned, it's a little warm in here. It's still. Silent. Right? So just to rest into that experience. Right? The visual things that are in here, experience. Even experiencing the spaciousness of the room. Right? So just experiencing without grasping, without fixating, without thinking, without analyzing, without critiquing, oh, I wonder who designed this room, oh, I wish the AC was working, and we can just go on and on and on and on, right? Right, so Karmapa is asking us to begin to experience appearance in a way in which it's not an object. Right? So we're not objectifying. We're not, there's no separation in terms of this kind of binary subject-object division. And sometimes that can be a little scary because we've invested a tremendous amount of time and energy into cultivating, identity. Right? So cultivating, Justin, who is like this, and, all that stuff. And it's not that we have to give up who we are, right? But it does mean that we really benefit by just letting go, and letting go of the way we hold on, letting go of the way we resist, letting go of, especially the way we want to control our experience. And when we do this, Karmapa points out, everything becomes vivid and fresh. And he points out that appearance and mind do not differ. The natural radiance of mind appears without cessation. And so, there's always this, or oftentimes this reference to this term radiance. And so, what does that mean, or what's being referred to in that? And so, what is being referred to is the ability or the quality that mind has to be full, right? To be full of experience. So when I say mind, it's not just, thought mind, right? Mind of sem, right? So mind that thinks. It's not just mind that thinks. That's part of it, of course. But, we are in the mind that thinks is often almost, it's helpful sometimes to, explore this for ourselves by really parsing it out. when we're experiencing something in the visual field, for example, or any kind of sense field, you know, where is that division, if there is one, between mind and what is being experienced? Right, so the luminosity is visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, olfactory consciousness, etc., taste. And when we begin to kind of see that there's no difference, no separation between that and mind, then things begin to become a little bit more clear. And he goes on, to say, when appearance not existing as separate from mind or as an external object dawns as luminous and empty, right? Luminous meaning very vivid and clear, and empty. Right? That there's not this kind of conflict in the moment between self and other. That is the dawning of the vipassana from from appearance. And so this kind of dawning of vipassana from appearance is, the vipassana piece is, deep knowing, rooted in our experience of appearance. And that this essentially is the appearance of emptiness, the union of emptiness and appearance, the Dharmakaya. And so, again, the reason why this is such a lovely text is because that was, like a third of a page, right? But the depth of what is being pointed out is quite profound. And so I just also want to kind of remind people, if you have any questions, you can, ask a question in the Ask a Question tab on the bottom, or of course, in the text box. So the next instruction is pointing out body and mind as the same or different. Right, and so allow yourself to just sit comfortably, and I'll read this instruction and we can see what that's like. You take a moment to sit, rest, or lay down and rest, whatever feels comfortable. So Karmapa says, by looking at the body and mind, one sees that those two, being neither the same nor different, are the union of luminosity and emptiness, like a moon reflected in water. Due to not realizing that the appearance of sensations such as hot and cold is appearance emptiness, the power of habitual patterns increases, and due to mind's labeling, solidification ensues. But since ultimately there is no basis for labeling sensations as being felt by body or mind, properly direct your mind towards appearances. By looking piercingly at sensations, they return to themselves. Appearances will be vivid, free of fixation. At that time, if oneself and appearance are the vivid appearance emptiness, without being objects, that is the natural state of the way things are, or the definitive characteristic of mind. Oneself, appearance, and mind are all mind. Mind is just natural radiance. Nothing exists other than that. Not even slightly. Body and mind are inseparable, and nothing more than classifications, labelings by mind. Ooh. That was a little That was good. So, again, here, Karmapa is still pushing us and pushing us and pushing us to this place of recognition that, we're not, Mahamudra is not about cultivating anything. Of course, on one level, like, in the beginning, in a very conventional manner, it's about cultivating shamatha, some experience of stability of mind or quiescence, right? But in the beginning stages, that's a little artificial, right? And the only reason why we do that is because our mind is so wild, right? It just we're relatively unconscious of what's arising, right? We're relatively unconscious of the volume of thought activity. We're relatively unconscious of reactivity. So you could be sitting here, I could be sitting here, in the early phases of my Dharma career, as it were, and just be like, oh man, it's hot in here. It's like, just, I don't want to be here. Like, it's very still, like there's no movement of the air. You know, just find every little nitpicky thing about this space, right? And that's reactivity, right? That kind of, making it better. It's the princess and the pea kind of thing, right? So with quiescence, we kind of, learn how to have a little bit more discipline with respect to mind, right? And the discipline is not like whipping each other, to just be disciplined. The discipline is an understanding and familiarity of what mind is like, the ultimate patience, the ultimate form of patience dawns from practices like shamatha, where we can just, we kind of experience our bullshit and all of our projections and all that stuff. And yeah, we can get frustrated, we can get angry, we can get upset, we can get all of those things, right? But if we don't have patience with ourselves, we're never going to endure in our practice to be able to experience greater spaciousness, right? And so it's really important to exercise patience with respect to our practice, and recognize that the patience that dawns from shamatha is actually much more powerful and deeply rooted in authenticity than some kind of thought experiment where we're trying to kind of, graft patience onto, mind. So there are a couple questions. So let me start off with South Sea Sangha. Is this second text referring to waking up our chitta, bodhicitta? Yeah, yes, yeah. So bodhicitta in the ultimate sense, right? So bodhicitta as awakened mind. Yeah. And then Melissa asks, when you say radiance, does it mean the union of luminosity and emptiness, or does radiance mean clarity, or does radiance mean the emptiness without luminosity? It's a very good set of questions. So radiance is simultaneously all of these, right? So radiance is the way that mind is full, right? And I don't mean like a can of sardines, right? It's not that it's full of thought activity, like jam packed, all the thoughts are right there, right? It's that it's full of experience, right? Well, like if everyone could just take a moment and pause for a second and open up to the direct experience of everything that's right before you and within you. So, you could say, well, it's just physical things, right? And that's just a very light read. There's the nature of time. There's the nature of space. right? There are all the elements in the way the elements arise. There are all the sense faculties in the way the sense faculties experience everything that arises. There's color, there's texture, there's meaning conveyed by form. All of these things are arise. And so the radiance is the mind's ability to be able to quote unquote hold all of that. Right? And the luminosity is very closely related to that. The luminosity is the energy, right? That allows all of this experience to be communicated. And of course, it's also inherently empty. Right? The clarity also is this kind of, fresh, alive awareness aspect of mind. Right? So it's not the case that mind is like a cube, and each facet, there's 6 facets on a cube. 6 facets on a cube, right? That each one of these things is a descriptor / inherent quality of mind, right? These are just naturally, it's just the way the mind happens. The mind is inherently empty. No center, no edge, no particular space. It cannot be contained in just one thing. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. It's inside of us. It's outside of us. It's at the edge of the universe. It's on Mars. It's in a banana. It's in a deer. It's in this, smile of a child. It's in a wave. It's in rain. It's in fire. Right? So it's just amazing, right? So there's that. That's also one of the reasons why it's empty, right? Because it has no fixed state, it has no fixed place. Right? The clarity of it is its infinite potential. Infinite potential, not because it's the source of everything, but because everything is contained within it. Everything, nothing can arise outside of mind. And simultaneously, not everything arises, it's not that mind is inherently the womb or even, some kind of seminal seed from which everything arises. You can't have anything that arises outside of mind or outside of relationship to mind. But that's the nature of mind. But then there's the nature of awareness, right? Which is the ability to actually experience this, to know it, to rest into direct relationship with that, right? To recognize our inseparability with that and our inseparability with everything that arises. Which is where, so Karmapa says, by looking piercingly at sensations, they turn to themselves, right? Like there's and they just become themselves. We don't have to get in, there's this Buddha head here in this room that I'm in, and somebody called me up at one point several years ago, and it was a realtor. Somebody had committed suicide, and the realtor was like, he had committed suicide in the apartment where this Buddha head was, and they were like scared of it because they thought there was a lot of like bad juju, and so they're like, will you take it? I was like, yeah, of course. So I came and took it, right? So I just saw it, and so all of that story just came up, right? And then it came up, and then it just vanished, right? It just played itself right out, right? So it returned, the image itself, the form returns to itself. It's able to just return back to its basic state as, this kind of mind, Sem, that's constantly, thinking and reacting, returns to its original state. And, the wonderful thing is that the state is exactly the same. And when this happens, Karmapa says appearances will be vivid, free of fixation, right? And this is that time, where and we have these experiences sometimes of other people or places where it's just like everything feels perfect, right? Everything is just arising in such a beautiful, lovely, unorchestrated way. Right? And that's usually when we're experiencing things in a way that it's just coming, it's arising, and there's no clinging, no chasing after, no, like people chase after butterflies with nets, and then they gas them and then they put them in, frames, right? Like we don't have to do that with phenomenon. So and he says at that time, if oneself and appearance are vivid, appearance emptiness without being objects. This objectness, right, is this need to classify. So radiance, is it luminosity and emptiness? Or is it clarity? Or is it emptiness without luminosity? Right? And so this is like coming back to that childlike experience where let's just wait and see. Let's experience directly for ourselves. And when we're able to be without being objects, right? Without, being labeled. And in the next pieces, or in the next paragraph, Karmapa says that this is the natural state of the way things are, or the definitive characteristic of mind. Oneself, appearance, and mind are all mind. Right? So we don't have to freak out. It's the only thing we're dealing with is mind. We go around, our daily lives, trying to change the world, trying to change ourselves, but it's all the same thing. It doesn't mean not to change the world, not to change ourselves, right? Because there's a direct corollary between, in the relative world, right, how we are with one another and the kind of experience that's engendered afterwards. Right? But at its most ultimate level, there is absolutely no separation. Right? So ourselves, appearance, and mind are all mind, and mind is just natural radiance. Right? So we are all natural radiance. We are all just rainbows. We're all just light that's happening. And so as the appearance of light that's just happening, like look at how we suffer. Like why is that the case? Why? And then, of course, nothing exists other than this, not even slightly. Body and mind are inseparable, and nothing more than classifications, labelings by the mind, by, sen, by the mind that thinks, right? This, like a conceptual mind. Right? So, it's just so extraordinary. Right? And so generous, right? That, some of the Karmapas, third Karmapa is super genius with respect to his ability to convey the clarity of mind through the Mahamudra aspiration prayer, right? Definitely a super genius. That's third Karmapa. Ninth Karmapa as well. Just, able to kind of, help us just connect in that way. Right? So all we are is light, sound, rainbow. And we suffer so much. It's pretty intense. Let's see. It's 2:47 here. So I'm going to do, the next one is a little long, but I'm going to take a shot at it. Actually, you know what? No, yeah, I will. So this is actually the last pointing out instruction. So pointing out the still mind and the moving mind is the same or different. And so Karmapa says, by looking at both the still mind and the moving mind as above, from those two, thought is understood to be meditation. The still mind and the moving mind are known to be nothing but the same. Their way of arising is that they alternate. At the time of stillness, there is no movement. At the time of movement, there is no stillness. Nevertheless, it is a single mind doing this. The nature of these two is nothing other than naked luminosity, emptiness. Right? And so, what this is getting at is like, when we sit down to meditate for the first time, or even the first 1,000 times, we'll sit down, right? We're sitting, and all of a sudden, there's thought activity. Sometimes it could be quite intense. Other times a little less intense, and sometimes there's stillness. And what Karmapa is getting at is the way we objectify experience, right? We objectify, we chase after stillness. So, thought activity makes me feel crazy. I wish it went away. I want stillness, right? And so there's this, attachment and aversion. There's labeling. There's everything that prevents us from being able to experience the luminosity of the moment, right? And so, when we look, there's no difference between the moving mind and the still mind. Even the incredibly agitated mind and mind that's moving like molasses are the same. There's no difference. So Scott asks, could it also be said that there is no difference between our suffering and our awareness of suffering, all being mind and empty? Yeah, I mean, in a way. So, I mean, our suffering is illusory, ultimately, right? Our suffering is a bunch of sad rainbows. So the sad rainbows, are suffering. All we are is light, and we're still torturing ourselves and one another because we kind of, we want to get away from activity. We want to get to stillness. We're always operating with preference, right? And so our awareness, though, is like this key, right? That's the thing that allows us to be able to recognize, holy shit, man, like I'm really fucking unhappy because I'm chasing things, because I'm pushing away, because I'm trying to be different or separate, because because I'm chasing stillness. I don't want to be in this active place, right? Completely forgetting the nature of mind, the true nature of mind, right? The true expansive quality of mind. And so in a way, like everything is mind. Awareness of suffering, though, awareness is different than mind, ultimately. Like Sem, like the thinking, cognizant mind, right? Like awareness allows, it gives us, it's this quality of this larger experience of mind that is vast, right? And it allows us to be able to experience and have clarity. So actually, in a way, I'm going to walk it back and say that they're not the same. I hope that's helpful. So Karmapa goes on to say, it is not that one gathers in thoughts and then sees them as naked luminosity emptiness, but it is when one realizes immediately upon their arising that thoughts are naked luminosity emptiness, that one knows the natural state of mind. This is called the falling apart of the division between stillness and movement. Mind may be still, luminous and steady and non-thought, or there may be movement of thoughts, but the essence of these thoughts is nothing other than naked luminosity, emptiness. It's every little bit, every little thought, every little experience, right? When we're able to actually experience them, right? So, and that is to rest into awareness. From where is the thought arising? Where does the thought go? Right? Not in an overly heady kind of intellectual way, but just watching, like watching clouds or watching a boat somewhere on the South Sea, right? Just watching it, and that's how we see. So Karmapa says, now when you realize that, like water and waves, all objects and appearances actually do not exist as anything other than the magical tricks of mind. The pointing out that all appearances are mind has been recognized. Everything in this room that I'm in is exactly the same. And it's the same as me, and it's the same as air, and it's the same as water, it's the same as mind, it's the same as glass, it's the same as a pile of dirt, it's the same as Trump, it's the same as a moon rock, it's the same as a mountain of wasted plastic, it's the same as a diamond, it's the same as a tree, it's the same as a door, it's the same as Milarepa,